Sonny fell to his knees, breathless. His entire body felt as though it had just been put through a meat grinder. No amount of adrenaline could wash away the pain and exhaustion. Yet, despite everything, he felt a surge of exhilaration. The satisfaction of slaying the larva was so immense that he momentarily forgot his disappointment over not receiving a memory. The rare item sometimes granted by the spell to the victorious awakened. A magic sword, or even just a simple suit of armor, would have been immensely useful right now. Hell, he would settle for a warm coat. 3 seconds. You can rest for 3 more seconds, Sonny thought. After all, the nightmare was far from over. A few moments later, he forced himself back into action, looking around to assess the situation. The larva was dead, which was a small victory. However, he was still shackled to it by the damn chain. The shifty slave and the scholar, both pale as death, were struggling to untangle the chain, hoping to gain at least some freedom of movement. In the distance, torn bodies and chunks of flesh littered the ground. Many slaves had been killed. A few had somehow managed to escape and were running away. Fools! They're dooming themselves. It seemed the chain had broken at some point, explaining why it had suddenly slackened when Sonny was dragged along by the panicking slaves. If their shackles had a less complex locking mechanism, he might have freed himself by now. However, each pair of shackles was fixed to a specific link, and without unlocking them, no one was going anywhere. The tyrant, likely the Mountain King, remained out of sight, obscured by the bright glow of the bonfire. Yet, Sonny could still feel its movements through the subtle tremors in the stones beneath him, as well as the desperate screams of those slaves who had not yet perished. He could even hear the occasional angry growl, indicating that some soldiers were still alive and fighting the beast. What caught his attention, however, was that several of the maimed bodies had begun to stir. More larvae. His eyes widened. One by one, for more corpses slowly rose to their feet. Each was as grotesque as the first, and just as deadly. The nearest one was only meters away. Damn it all, he thought. And then, weakly, I want to wake up, as strange clicking noises filled the air. One of the larvae turned its head toward the 3 slaves and bared its teeth. Shifty fell to the ground, whispering a prayer, while Scholar froze in place. Sonny's eyes scanned the ground, searching for something, anything, to use as a weapon, but there was nothing. Frustrated, he wrapped a length of chain around his knuckles and raised his fists. Come at me, you bastard! The larva charged with incredible speed, its claws slashing and fangs bared. Sonny had less than a second to react, but just before he could act, a nimble figure darted past him, and a sharp sword flashed through the air. The monster, beheaded with one clean strike, fell to the ground with a thud. Sonny blinked, confused. What was that? Still dazed, he turned his head to the left. There, standing with an expression of determination, was the handsome young soldier who had once offered him water. The soldier looked calm, composed, though there was a grimness to his demeanor. His leather armor was spotless, no dirt, no blood. He is awesome, Sonny thought, before catching himself. Posé. He's a poser. With a quick nod, the soldier turned to face the remaining 3 larvae. But then, after taking a few steps, he suddenly stopped, glanced back at Sonny, and threw something from his belt. Save yourself. With that, the soldier charged back into the fray. Sonny reflexively caught the item and watched the soldier disappear into the battle. Then, he looked down at the object clutched in his hand. It was a short, narrow iron rod with a bend at the end. A key. It's a key. His heart began to race. It's the key to the shackles. With a glance at the fierce battle between the soldier and the larvae, Sonny dropped to one knee and began working on his shackles. It took a few tries, but eventually there was a satisfying click and he was free. The cold wind kissed his bloodied wrists. He rubbed them, a dark gleam in his eyes. Just you wait now. For a moment, Visions of violence and revenge flooded his mind. "Boy, over here." Shifty waved frantically, trying to get his attention. Sunny hesitated for a moment, considering leaving him to die. But then he reconsidered. There was strength in numbers. Despite Shifty's earlier threats and the overall unpleasantness between them, Sunny couldn't bring himself to leave a fellow slave behind, especially when freeing him didn't cost him anything. He rushed over to the other two slaves and quickly unlocked their shackles. As soon as Shifty was free, he pushed Sunny away, doing a little dance and laughing maniacally. "Ah, free at last! The gods must be smiling upon us." Scholar was more reserved, offering a weak smile as he squeezed Sunny's shoulder in gratitude, though his eyes kept flicking nervously toward the ongoing battle. Two of the larvae were already dead. The third one, missing an arm, was still fighting fiercely, its monstrous claws trying to tear its opponent apart. The young soldier moved around it with the fluid grace of a born warrior. "What are you waiting for? Run!" Shifty called out, but Scholar grabbed his arm and stopped him. "My friend, I would. If you say advise again, I swear to the gods, I'll bash your head open." Shifty interrupted, his voice a mix of irritation and fear. The two slaves glared at each other, and after a tense moment, Scholar sighed and lowered his eyes. "If we run now, we will surely die." "Why?" Shifty asked. Scholar nodded toward the tall bonfire. "Without that fire, we will freeze to death before the night is over. Until the sun rises, running away is suicide." Sunny said nothing, knowing Scholar was right. In fact, he'd realized at the moment he'd slain the larva. No matter how terrifying the Mountain King was, the bonfire was still their only hope in this frozen hell. As the broad-shouldered slave had said, the mountain itself would kill them if given the chance. "So what?" Shifty said, trying to appear brave. "I prefer freezing to death than being eaten by that monster. Not to mention, turning into one of those things." He shivered, stepping back a little. By this point, the third larva was dead, and the young soldier was nowhere to be seen. He had likely moved to engage the rest of the larvae. Scholar cleared his throat. The monster may be sated by those it has already slain. It might be defeated or driven away by the Imperials. But if we stay here, we have a chance, however small, of survival. If we run, though, our doom is certain. "So what do we do?" Sunny asked. Unlike Scholar, Sunny was certain that the Mountain King wouldn't be satisfied with just slaughtering most of the slaves, and he doubted that mere mortals, even if they were awakened, could defeat such a tyrant. But if he wanted to live, he had to find a way to take down the beast. "Let's go take a look." Shifty stared at him as if he'd gone mad. "Are you insane? You want to get closer to that beast?" Sunny merely stared back at him before shrugging and walking in the direction of the rampaging monster.